Okay, get this. Some of the quirkiest habits people have. Turns out, they might actually be signs of high intelligence. Yeah, what looks totally weird on the outside. Talking to yourself. Overthinking every little detail. Even walking alone inside a high IQ brain. It's all working perfectly. Your brain might be operating on a level most people don't even notice. And if you catch yourself doing any of these things without realizing it, well, congratulations. You might be smarter than you think. Stick at home because we're diving into 6 habits that reveal how your mind really ticks, and trust me, some of them are gonna make you go, wait. That's actually normal for geniuses. So here's the deal. Most people think talking to yourself is totally crazy, right? But here's the twist. If you catch yourself muttering under your breath, making lists out loud, or even debating decisions with yourself, that's actually a hallmark of high intelligence. Psychology calls it verbal reasoning. And it's basically your brain's way of putting thoughts into words to organize ideas and solve problems faster. High IQ people don't just talk randomly, they do it quietly, methodically. Almost like they're having a private strategy session in their own head. Imagine you're trying to solve a tough problem or plan out your day, and instead of juggling everything internally, you actually say it out loud. Suddenly, it all clicks. It's not weird. It's your brain working smarter, not harder. And the cool part? People around you might raise an eyebrow, thinking you're strange. But really, your mind is doing exactly what it needs to stay focused and make better decisions. It's like giving your thoughts a map. So you don't get lost in mental chaos. But here's where it gets absolutely crazy. There's a second habit. It looks like overthinking, but it's not what you think. Alright, so now we're talking about overthinking, but hold up. It's not what you usually assume. High EQ people don't overthink because they're anxious or insecure. Nope. Their brain is just wired to analyze every angle, every detail, every possible outcome before making a move. Psychologists call this cognitive complexity, and it basically means their mind is a mental detective, picking apart situations like a pro. Picture this. Everyone else sees a simple decision, like choosing between 2 restaurants, and they just pick one. But a high IQ person, they're thinking about the menu, the vibe, traffic, maybe even whether this place sparks a good conversation. Sounds exhausting, right? But for them, it's normal problem solving. Making sure they're not missing anything important. From the outside, it might look like indecision or even procrastination, but inside, their mind is gathering intel, weighing options, and planning the smartest move. And this pattern isn't just for small stuff. It shows up in work, relationships, and life choices. Their brain thrives on fully understanding the consequences before committing. And here's the kicker. This overthinking habit often pairs perfectly with something else: high IQ. People love walking alone, so we just talked about overthinking, right? Well, here's where it gets really interesting. High IQ people often take long walks alone, and it's not because they're antisocial or avoiding people. Nope, this is a full-on brain hack. Walking actually activates creative and problem-solving networks in the brain, giving them the space to think clearly and connect ideas without distractions. Imagine stepping out for a 20-minute stroll, earbuds in, mind wandering. Suddenly, random thoughts start clicking together: the solution to a work problem, a creative idea for a project, or even just clarity on personal stuff. Solitude isn't loneliness for them. It's mental fuel. And here is the thing. Being alone helps their brain wander in ways that sitting in a crowded room just can. This is why a high IQ person might prefer solo walks over group hangouts. It's not about avoiding people, it's about tapping into a deeper thinking state. And honestly, it's kind of genius. While everyone else is scrolling on their phones or stuck in small talk, their mind is running at full capacity. But hold up, it doesn't stop there. High IQ people are also famously messy in one area and insanely organized in another. And that's a whole other brain trick. Okay, so here, S1 that trips people out. Every time high IQ minds are often messy in some areas, but insanely organized in others. Like you might walk into their office or bedroom and think, whoa, how does anything get done here? But then you find their digital files, work projects, or big ideas, and it's picture-perfect organized chaos. Psychology calls this selective organization, and it's basically the brain saying, I'm only putting energy where it actually matters. Think about it, why waste mental bandwidth organizing every single little thing when your brain could be laser focused on ideas, systems, or work that truly counts. Their desk might look like a tornado hit it, but their important work, flawless. Emails, research, project plans, all neatly structured. It's not inconsistency, it's mental efficiency at its finest. This habit can confuse people because we're used to judging intelligence by appearances. But for a high IQ brain, appearance doesn't equal importance. They prioritize energy where it actually makes a difference. And everything else, meh, it can wait. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Sometimes, this focus turns into short bursts of intense obsession over a topic, and it's wild how their mind dives in. Alright, now we're diving into something that might sound totally intense. High IQ people often get short, almost obsessive bursts of focus on a topic, and then just as suddenly, move on. It's not random or flaky, it's how their brain's curiosity system works. When they stumble onto something that genuinely sparks interest, learning triggers a dopamine hit, and suddenly they're completely absorbed. Imagine someone spending hours reading about black holes, coding a new app, or dissecting the psychology behind a movie, and then dropping it once they've gotten the insight they needed. They're not being weird or inconsistent, they're feeding their mind with what excites them. Small talk or mundane tasks, forget it. Their attention just isn't wired for that kind of mental snack. This intense focus also explains why high IQ people can seem unpredictable. One moment, they're all in, diving deep into a subject, and the next, they're onto something else entirely. To outsiders, it can look impulsive, but in reality, it's pure curiosity driving their learning and growth, letting them explore ideas at lightning speed. And speaking of small talk, here's a habit that ties perfectly into this obsession-driven mindset. High IQ people often avoid small talk altogether, and there's a really interesting reason why. So here's one that makes total sense. Once you get at high IQ, people hate small talk. And no, it's not because they're rude or their brains are wired to seek depth and meaningful conversation, not surface-level chit-chat. Casual topics feel mentally draining, while discussions that challenge their thinking or introduce new ideas make them light up. Picture a group gathering. Everyone's talking about the weather or what's on TV, and the high IQ person is sitting back, quietly observing. But then someone drops a topic about psychology, technology, or a mind-bending Netflix show, and suddenly they're fully engaged, firing off insights and questions like a pro. Their mind craves complexity and stimulation, and small talk just doesn't cut it. This habit ties into all the others we've covered: talking to themselves, walking alone, diving into obsessive learning. They're all about maximizing mental energy and focus. Avoiding meaningless chatter is just another way their brain preserves bandwidth for what really matters. And here's the big takeaway. If you recognize yourself in any of these habits, your brain isn't weird. It's simply operating on a deeper, more complex level than most people around you. So here's the bottom line. If you find yourself talking to yourself, avoiding small talk, taking long solo walks, obsessing over random topics, or even being a little messy in some areas, but super organized in others, you're not strange. Psychology actually shows that your brain might just work in deeper, more complex ways than most people around you. These habits aren't quirks, they're signs that your mind is thinking, analyzing, and creating on a whole different level. And here's the cool part. Knowing this changes how you see yourself. Instead of feeling out of place or misunderstood, you can embrace your unique thinking style and leverage it to solve problems, create ideas, and explore the world in ways others might never notice. If this blew your mind and you want more videos uncovering the psychology behind your personality and intelligence, hit that subscribe button right now. Who knows? The next video might reveal something about your own brain that you've never noticed before.